Toriko is testing his strength against a gigantic iron ore with a powerful punch, causing it to shatter into dust. Later, Toriko, Komatsu, and Terry eat together. Komatsu adds a few soybean grains to the meat to enhance the rich flavor. Toriko contemplates his punching power and wonders how far he can go in the gourmet world. Rumors depict the gourmet world as considered a culinary paradise, but some also say it is a hell. Not only is the weather extremely harsh, but the creatures there are also extremely fierce. In the world, there is only one gourmet hunter lucky enough to survive and return after entering the gourmet world. Due to its dangerous nature, the gourmet world has been completely isolated from the human world. It is considered a gateway to hell, and once you enter, there is no turning back. Toriko asks Sani about the gourmet world, as Sani had ventured into it and was severely injured, ultimately saved by Master Teppei. The reality is different from what Toriko had envisioned, and like Sani, he might venture into the gourmet world if no one stops him. Sani shares 3 paths Toriko can take to enter the gourmet world: the basin waterfall of life on Zabel Island, the demon's soul port on Yudo Island, and the path connecting the 3 continents of Wak. Among them, the least challenging route and the easiest to take to the gourmet world is through the basin waterfall of life on Zabel Island. Toriko thanks Sani and decides to go alone without bringing Terry or Komatsu along. The next day, Toriko sets off for the gourmet world, a land with a significant difference in sea level compared to the human world. Every year, thousands attempt to conquer the gourmet world, but none have ever returned. Toriko quickly threw himself down, unexpectedly colliding with a giant dinosaur of an unknown level. Sensing an intruder, the dinosaur immediately attacked Toriko, causing him severe injuries and making him fall down the mountainside. Luckily, Toriko's body surpassed that of an ordinary person, so he survived, albeit with his entire body in excruciating pain and unable to move. Just then, the forest echoed with the roars of some mysterious beasts. In front of Toriko now stood an Azura tiger with 3 heads, rushing to lick Toriko with its tongues. Fortunately, he managed to evade, and when it raised its leg to stomp Toriko, he used his flying leg technique to counter, delivering a powerful blow. The pain prompted the Azura tiger to retaliate with its tail, sending Toriko flying. Unluckily, Toriko encountered a gorilla king just after, seemingly standing there waiting for Toriko to fly by. Toriko exerted all his strength to deliver a punch, causing the gorilla to fall. The 2 beasts clashed, allowing Toriko to escape to another location. He arrived at a forest of gigantic dragon bone trees, where the heat was as intense as a furnace. Toriko's sweat evaporated instantly upon touching the ground. Trying to drink water from one of the dragon bones, Toriko was unexpectedly attacked by a self-defensive tree, sending him flying hundreds of meters. Following that, the sky suddenly poured rain in giant droplets, as if intending to crush Toriko's body. This world truly felt like hell. After the rain ceased, more monsters appeared, but Toriko was too exhausted to defend himself. Fortunately, in this dire moment, an old man appeared before Toriko. Holding 2 electric spears, the old man single-handedly fought off the horde of monsters. Even fierce creatures like the 3-headed tiger and the gorilla king were terrified and dared not challenge the old man's strength. Toriko stood to the side, watching in amazement. Who was this old man, and why was he so imposing? The horde of monsters fell one by one, and any aggressive creature faced the old man's electric shocks, leaving them terrified. Even the 3-headed tiger and the gorilla king were afraid and dared not challenge the old man's might. Later, the 2 of them entered the forest to eat and talk, and the black-haired uncle turned out to be Jiro. Here, he raised his hand like a spear, making Toriko jump back. Jiro remarked that Toriko had lost his vigilance. In this gourmet world, losing vigilance for just 1/100th of a second could be fatal. From the moment Toriko relaxed for a second, Jiro knew he wasn't a professional. Jiro explained that the reason Toriko's body felt heavy was due to the altitude being over 20,000 meters lower than sea level. The closer to the Earth's core, the heavier gravity becomes. Therefore, the body weighs tens of times more than on the surface. The bleeding eyes and numb limbs were because Toriko was near the air tree. Excessive oxygen causes tissue differentiation, and the air tree is a special ingredient that needs unique processing. There's another special ingredient called thermal planet here. It has horizontal attraction equal to gravity on the surface, making movement easy and the body lighter. However, it also emits an enormous amount of heat into the environment. As for the waterfall spot that Toriko encountered earlier, it's called a waterfall tree. It shoots out water rays to kill prey, and these are just a few things about the gourmet world. Jiro advised Toriko to trust Komatsu with an open heart. He emphasized that what Toriko needed now was a teammate, and Komatsu, recommended by Jiro, had come to rescue Toriko. When Sani visited Komatsu at the hotel to congratulate and inform him about Toriko's solo journey into the gourmet world, he also gave Komatsu a phone number, which belonged to Jiro. This revelation brought tears to Toriko's eyes, marking the first time he cried throughout his journey. Perhaps he finally understood the importance of his comrades. At the hotel, Komatsu, working with a worried expression, was surprised when Toriko appeared. Komatsu abandoned his incomplete work to embrace Toriko. Meanwhile, a penguin was relaxing in the pool near them. And Komatsu was preparing a pot of strawberry rice and making a stuffed beef dish to accompany the rice. The beef was cooked to perfection, tender, and not too chewy. The chicken leg with corn tasted as good as chicken meat, but the highlight was the strawberry rice, emitting a gentle fragrance of fruit. Even the penguin enjoyed a grand and delicious feast. Having a friend as a chef was truly delightful. After the meal, Toriko asked Komatsu if he wanted to join him in the gourmet world to continue their culinary journey. Unexpectedly, a sound of shattering emerged as Komatsu's kitchen knife broke while cooking. Though the knife wasn't particularly valuable, it had been with Komatsu since he first stepped into the world of cooking, holding significant meaning for him. Toriko suddenly remembered the list of ingredients that his adoptive father had given him, including one called Melk Stardust. If this ingredient were used to craft a new kitchen knife for Komatsu, it would be extremely sharp. Melk was renowned as the greatest knife artisan in the world. The next day, the two of them set out to find him. However, Melk values privacy, so he bought an entire mountain and built a house on its peak, thousands of meters high, to live in seclusion from the human world. Climbing to the mountaintop required a considerable effort from both Komatsu and Toriko. Along the way, they encountered a flock of squid birds, and Toriko immediately caught some to grill and eat. Despite being bird meat, it tasted similar to seafood. After a day of mountain climbing, early the next morning, they reached the summit and saw Melk's forge. Suddenly, a level 22 scale Kong appeared behind them, but before it could attack, its scales fell off, forcing it to jump down the mountain to escape. It turned out that a young man with a sword took action to chase away the scale Kong. He claimed to be the legendary craftsman Melk, which surprised Toriko and Komatsu because Melk turned out to be young and handsome. They had thought he avoided humans because of an ugly appearance. Melk led the two into his knife-making workshop, where many blades and rare materials were displayed. The prices were not cheap. A mid-range knife cost up to 5 million yen. During the visit, Komatsu accidentally bumped into a stand, causing a knife to fall. Fortunately, Toriko pulled him away just in time to prevent a deadly accident. The sharp knife embedded itself deeply into the stone floor, and Melk revealed that it was made from the tooth of a level 55 battle wolf shark. However, Toriko sensed that Melk was trying to hide something, so he challenged him to a skilled duel to test his strength. Following that, they engaged in a showdown, and as expected, Melk was defeated by Toriko in a short period. From this incident, Toriko became more convinced that Melk was definitely not the legendary master knife sharpener from the tales. It was only then that Melk revealed the truth. Melk is his master and he was the second generation, also known as Melk II. 6 years ago, Melk set out to find the materials to make high-quality whetstones, and since then, he has never returned. Komatsu expressed his desire to ask Melk II to craft a knife, but Melk stated that making a good knife would take at least 3 years. However, if Melk II could obtain the Melk dust, the process could be significantly shortened. According to legend, using a whetstone made from Melk dust creates the sharpest blade in the world. Melk dust is not only an excellent material for crafting knives but also a delicious seasoning for food. If Melk II could obtain a whetstone made from Melk dust, he could create the greatest kitchen knife. The goal of Melk II is to become a master whetstone craftsman like his master. However, Toriko felt hungry, so he paused the conversation to go out and hunt for some delicious creatures for dinner. Today's menu included grilled squid, mixed vegetable salad, and a seafood and mushroom stew that everyone enjoyed. Each person ate 6 bowls of rice, and the location of the Melk dust was in the deep hole about 30 kilometers north of Melk Mountain. It is the deepest cave in the human world, where Melk dust can be found. Toriko prepared his belongings and set off to conquer the training his old man had arranged for him. In the middle level hole, the level of creatures is 50 or higher, making Melk II worried about Toriko's safety. However, Komatsu reassured him and asked him to trust Toriko. In the sky, a large bat approached and frightened Komatsu to the point of tears. Fortunately, it turned out to be Kokiko, a familiar face in Melk II's pet. Kokiko was also Melk II's first pet, responsible for transporting the requested knives to customers. After completing its mission, Kokiko quickly handed the knives to Melk and returned to its nest. Today, with many orders, Melk invited Komatsu to join him inside and help with the work. Toriko was now below the deep hole, hoping that Komatsu would accompany him on this journey. However, it seemed that Komatsu was eager to watch Melk craft knives, so he decided to stay behind and learn the techniques. Toriko had to venture alone, knowing that wherever he went, he and Komatsu would always stand side by side. Before leaving, he took Komatsu's knife as a lucky charm. Toriko proceeded cautiously, taking each step with care. In the workshop, numerous knives awaited sharpening from chefs worldwide. Melk's daily maximum output was around 100 knives.
Komatsu held up a knife, wondering who was worthy to own it.
It turned out to be the knife of the head chef Lulubu from the Gus restaurant, one of the highest levels in the gourmet tower. As for Melk, he wielded the knife of Chef Yuji from the Magura restaurant, the 8-star grilling establishment in the gourmet town, Gourmet Alley. These knives were mostly from renowned chefs who were regular customers since the time of Melk I. Melk wondered how these chefs felt when using such exceptional knives. Upon seeing Komatsu's knife, he also pondered similar thoughts. The users of these knives, crafted with love and care, were truly exceptional individuals in Melk's eyes. Melk's master only wished to create the very best knife. In front of them was a sashimi knife used by the head chef of the Yoki restaurant. It was designed for handling special ingredients. And even a 1mm crack could significantly impact the cooking process. Top chefs relied on their senses, not sight, to detect such imperfections when preparing ingredients to meet the highest standards. As for knife sharpeners like Melk, they rely on sound and touch for sharpening. The knives, once sharpened, glittered and sparkled, appearing exceptionally beautiful. Observing Melk's knife sharpening process, Komatsu recognized the similarities with his own concentration on cooking. Melk completed his work, and Komatsu was amazed that his master could perform this task effortlessly. Melk suggested sharpening the knife slowly so that Komatsu could observe the process. Meanwhile, deep below the crack, Toriko had descended more than 10,000 meters below sea level when a low growl echoed from within the cave. Suddenly, glowing red eyes appeared. It was a two-headed beast at level 44.
Toriko had unintentionally entered its territory.
The creatures surrounded Toriko from all directions and launched an attack, but Toriko managed to evade by studying their muscular shapes and movements between joints. However, their sheer numbers made evasion unsustainable. Toriko improved his fork and knife technique into a defensive stance that the beasts couldn't breach. He successfully passed through their territory and continued deeper below. Another day passed, and Melk II remained busy with his work.
He was forging a kitchen knife.
After shaping and quenching it in cold water, only 50% of the work was complete. The most crucial step, accounting for half of the knife's success, was the sharpening process, divided into 3 stages. The rough stone was used for the initial stage, the medium stone for the middle stage, and the finest structured stone for the finishing stage. At this moment, Komatsu had just finished bathing and was wearing only underwear. Melk II, for some reason, blushed and felt embarrassed upon seeing this scene. Meanwhile, deep within the cave, Toriko had descended to a depth of 30,000 meters. The increasing gravitational force in the deep pit made Toriko's movements more challenging. While seemingly losing consciousness, he glanced at Komatsu's knife, providing him with the motivation to continue. He protected the knife as if protecting Komatsu. Toriko moved slowly and carefully, facing the increasing pressure. It seemed that Toriko's pressure was greater than the pressure of my financial troubles.
Seeing a small rock rolling down,
Toriko had the idea of not resisting gravity but rather relaxing his body, moving like a rolling ball.
In times of difficulty, intelligence often surges. Unfortunately, while focused on rolling, Toriko dropped Komatsu's knife. Desperate, he leaped to catch it.
Fortunately, in front of Toriko were red pearl crabs, a rare and high-quality species rarely found in the market. The knife glowed, and Toriko sensed Komatsu's ability to attract ingredients and find the red pearl crabs. On the other side, Komatsu was sleeping and dreaming that Toriko would eat all his food. Even in his dreams, he thought about food. Hearing the sound of flowing water, Komatsu observed Melk taking a bath and decided to prepare a late-night meal. Feeling that Melk might be tired after a hard day's work.
While Melk was bathing, Komatsu quietly approached with the late-night meal. Melk, seemingly infatuated with someone, released her hair. Komatsu only now realized that Melk was a woman. The atmosphere between the two had become strange, and Komatsu was surprised to discover Melk's true gender.
While Toriko was enjoying the delicious and tender red pearl crab meat, a giant creature, a level 53 scorpion beetle demon buffalo, suddenly appeared. Toriko immediately released his killing intent, ready to engage in battle. Surprisingly, the creature's eyes widened in fear, and Toriko realized that it wasn't looking at him. When he turned around, he saw a giant figure pointing and whispering something. The creature obediently followed the command and left. It was Melk I, but because of his tiny voice, Toriko couldn't hear anything. Melk took out a stone, did something with it, and then left. Toriko was still puzzled. The creature handed a stone to Melk, and suddenly his voice became louder.
Bidding farewell.
Toriko, full of questions, hurriedly followed. Melk sat down to enjoy the meal and shared her past. She was brought by her master from the distant mountains, far away from human settlements. Her master, rumored to be a demon, was never believed by people that he would raise a child, and she was the only one who felt love from the demon Melk. Melk I was like a foster father to her. After spending time together, she grew fond of her master's work.
However, he never allowed her into his workshop.
She secretly observed and infiltrated the workshop, accidentally dropping a knife and leaving her with the scar she had now. But she considered herself fortunate because that accident taught her fear and revealed the beauty of knives. Every day, she sat beside her master, observing his work and being captivated by it. Melk never taught her anything directly. All her learning was through observing his forging. More than 100 people came here every year to become disciples, but none could endure for more than 3 days. She aspired to become a part of her master's strength, eliminating her own weakness. She named herself Melk II, and as Toriko mentioned, she was an imposter. Komatsu found it fascinating and praised Melk for her courage. Toriko continued to follow Melk I until they reached a place emitting a radiant glow. It was an enormous arsenal of weapons. Melk I held a special stone called the Talking Stone, a miraculous stone found in the nerve strings of a stone beetle. It could capture and amplify surrounding sounds several times. The small creature next to Melk might still be a child, but Melk believed it was the champion in this deep hole. Melk I was here for a crucial task, and due to the intelligence of the scorpion beetle demon buffalo, he assigned it the duty of guarding against any intruders. Toriko was eager to hear about the important task, but he was disappointed as Melk spoke in a small voice. To solve this, Toriko decided to wrap the talking stone around Melk's neck as a necklace. Toriko felt that Melk was a talkative person, contrary to the rumors, and believed that the old man wasn't reticent but spoke too quietly that no one could hear. Fortunately, the talking stone was found. Back at the workshop, Komatsu praised Melk as a true master of knife sharpening with sincere words. While Melk I excelled in everything, Melk II, with her own skills, could produce superb knives. Melk II cried and continued her story. When her master left, she thought he would return as usual. However, days passed, and he never returned. Despite his absence, orders for knives kept coming. Instead of worrying, she maintained her faith in her master's wedding skills. Kokiko, the bat, still stood arrogantly, waiting for the return of the first. Komatsu borrowed a knife, gathered ingredients from the refrigerator, and showcased his culinary skills by preparing a sumptuous feast for Melk to enjoy. Listening to Toriko's narration, Melk I learned that Toriko was acquainted with Melk II. When he left 6 years ago, Melk II was only 15 years old. In the past, Melk received a request to create a sword that required a large amount of materials and took a considerable amount of time to complete, preventing him from returning home. Melk led Toriko to a glowing mine, which was the legendary Melk Stardust. By obtaining this stardust, Toriko could instantly return home. Toriko successfully brought back stones that could sharpen any material in the world. Melk II agreed to create a new kitchen knife for Komatsu. She chose the material to be the fang of an ancient dragon that lived 10,000 years ago. With the grinding stone made from Melk Stardust, the process of sharpening the dragon's fang, which usually took 3 years, was shortened to just 1 day. This is the power of the legendary grinding stone created for sharpening swords. Melk II also wanted to melt Komatsu's broken knife blade to integrate it into the new one, because she sensed that the blade wanted to convey that it could still work and did not want to disappear. While Komatsu and Melk II were busy discussing, Toriko was sitting on the side, casually enjoying the stardust. Thanks to the grinding stones brought by Toriko, Melk II only needed 1 morning to finish sharpening the knife blade. She placed Komatsu's broken blade into the furnace for heating, and then the 2 blades would be fused together to become a completely new knife. While Toriko and Komatsu were taking a hot bath, a streak of sword energy suddenly appeared, cutting the bath in half. This was a sign of the emergence of a divine being. Melk II successfully created the kitchen knife. Overjoyed, the 2 young men were so excited that they forgot to put on clothes, running out naked, causing Melk II to cover her face in embarrassment. Komatsu immediately went down to the kitchen to find an enormous chestnut. A few days ago, it was this very thing that caused his knife to break when he tried to cut it, proving its exceptional hardness. However, with the new knife made from the dragon's fang, Komatsu only needed a gentle touch to split the super hard chestnut in half, using it to slice the meat into thin pieces as thin as paper. Komatsu then used the knife to prepare the ingredients for the meal and found it incredibly easy. Toriko, feeling quite hungry, sat on the side, casually using the Melk Stardust as seasoning. For dinner, Komatsu made a full-topping cheesy pizza for Toriko to enjoy, and afterwards, he sprinkled Melk Stardust seasoning on it. President Igo and Yasaku arrived at the prison to pick up Zebra, anticipating something in the future and needing his strength. After Komatsu got his new kitchen knife, Toriko invited him along with Sani and Coco for a trip on a gigantic cruise ship. However, Zong and the journalist Tina managed to sneak on board. The ship served delicious sushi, with the fish caught right on the boat, maintaining the original sweet taste of the fresh fish. However, Zong's group didn't like raw fish, and instant ramen remained their favorite. The ship reached an area with snow, and they saw 2 horses running while emitting smoke, looking quite pitiful. Inside, a party was being held with symphony music and wine, perfectly matching Sani's sought-after style. Zong and his group were not allowed to attend the party due to their attire not matching the others. Toriko asked for a bit of wine from Sani, but what he considered a little filled the entire table. Komatsu approached Sani to thank him for what he had done by providing information about someone who could help Toriko come back. Sani believed that Komatsu was now embarking on a more dangerous journey than any he had undertaken before, and he invited Komatsu to dance. On this side, Coco and Toriko are dancing enthusiastically. Zong and Tina after their dance were chased by security, resulting in their pants falling down. After the party, Tina, intoxicated, stumbled back to her room. In the resting room, Komatsu proudly showed Coco and Sani the kitchen knife crafted by the master blade sharpener Melk. The strands of Sani's hair that touched it were so fine that Sani couldn't help but praise it. Sani wanted everyone to share more about the taste of Melk stardust, but it was a secret between Toriko and Komatsu, leaving Sani incredibly frustrated. Ignoring that incident, Coco asked Toriko to explain why he was on this rail instead of heading to the Gourmet Pyramid. Now that the train had reached the gate leading to the famous hell, those who passed through this gate were only notorious criminals who had committed serious offenses, and once they entered, they never returned to the world. This place was known as the Honey Prison, a secret honey prison. Toriko and Komatsu were heading to this gourmet prison to meet Zebra. The Zong group was also now imprisoned here, looking pitiful. Zebra was a super troublesome guy, but he was very powerful, and to reach the Gourmet Pyramid, Toriko needed Zebra's help. Toriko took this train because he wanted Coco and Sani to go down together to meet Zebra, but the response from both was negative. Toriko and Komatsu were then chased off the train, forced to walk despite the prison being tens of kilometers away. However, Toriko sensed Zebra's breath, a breath of destruction and death, inside the most dangerous gourmet prison in the world. Zebra also sensed Toriko approaching. After entering the dungeon, Toriko and Komatsu were welcomed by Deputy Warden Oben. The Deputy Warden revealed that this place also had another name, the Honey Prison, built deep within the earth. The maximum number of prisoners the Honey Prison could hold was over 100 million people, surrounded by extremely dangerous creatures that prevented prisoners from daring to escape. The elevator quickly stopped on the top floor, and the staff working here all had fierce expressions. Indeed, it was the most dangerous gourmet prison in the world. Deputy Warden Oben led the two to Menu Room 4, but in reality this place was used for torturing prisoners. Depending on the severity of their crimes, prisoners would face different punishments. For minor offenses, prisoners would lose their sense of taste, unable to enjoy the delicious aroma of the food. For serious crimes, prisoners would be shown delicious food but not allowed to eat it. The ones who committed heinous crimes, and were considered unredeemable, would only be given water and left to starve to death. Finally, Toriko and Komatsu were led to the office of the warden. Unexpectedly, the warden turned out to be a child dressed as a queen bee. However, in Toriko's eyes, the warden appeared as a beautiful young girl. It turned out the warden could mesmerize others by emitting pheromones like a queen bee. With this ability, the warden could control any creature she desired. However, there was one person unaffected by the warden's pheromones, and that was Gourmet Emperor Zebra. Curious, Komatsu asked Zebra what crime he had committed. The warden replied that he had eaten so much that more than 20 rare and endangered species had gone extinct. The warden then led the two to the room where Gourmet Emperor Zebra was held captive. Zebra's limbs were bound by 4 beasts at each corner, but for him, it was just a form of entertainment that he could escape from any time he wanted. Zebra's roar shook the entire prison, and as he was about to attack Komatsu, Toriko intervened. Just as the two Gourmet Emperors were about to engage in a fight, the warden mesmerized Toriko. However, this trick had no effect on Zebra. Everyone was puzzled about what the child was trying to achieve. The warden announced that Gourmet Prison would grant Zebra his freedom with one condition: he had to capture 500 wanted criminals and discover 100 new cooking ingredients. Zebra devoured the feast in just 5 minutes, still feeling hungry and wanting more. He then looked at Komatsu with a hungry gaze, frightening him. At this moment, the deputy warden announced the appearance of Forest Beet, a dangerous turtle. Whenever it appeared, the surrounding monsters would become extremely fierce, and they began attacking and devouring each other. People referred to this phenomenon as the death hunt season. The forest beet they mentioned was a magma turtle at level 70. Right after finishing his meal, Zebra wanted to expend energy. He quickly mobilized his internal energy, sucking all the air around into his stomach. Then, with a thunderous roar, Zebra unleashed a shockwave that startled the monsters, followed by using his noise missile technique to blow away the level 70 magma turtle. Even the legendary forest beet couldn't withstand Zebra's attack. Now, everyone understood why Zebra was considered the strongest among the 4 heavenly kings. The next day, Zebra joined Toriko and Komatsu's group to explore the desert cactus garden for new ingredients. However, there was a catch: Zebra kept eyeing Komatsu, making him constantly fearful. According to Toriko, anything that caught Zebra's interest would be relentlessly pursued and devoured until extinction. With nothing else to do, Zebra and Toriko decided to fight each other to pass the time. Even the beautiful house they were in got damaged during their brawl. After exchanging techniques, they felt hungry and instructed Komatsu to go to the kitchen and prepare some dishes for them, warning him that they might just eat him if he didn't comply. However, the only remaining piece of meat in the fridge led to another brawl between the two, both eager to claim the last piece of food. Truly, they were both gluttons. Komatsu, fed up, decided not to say anything and pretended not to notice. After a while, the group arrived at the desert garden, which turned out to be a small town. While walking, Zebra spotted a stranger and immediately asked if there were any delicious dishes available, displaying his uncouth manners. Komatsu couldn't help but doubt if this was one of the 4 heavenly kings. On their way, they stopped at a shaved ice shop, ordering 2 cups of sand ice made from a type of rock that didn't melt even in extreme heat, and was 100 times colder than regular ice. The refreshing sensation lingered in their throats for a long time. The owner also helped them prepare sunblock and other necessary tools for venturing into the desert to search for cooking ingredients. As they ventured deeper into the desert, the group found a village. Upon Zebra's appearance, the villagers warmly welcomed him. It turned out that many years ago, there was a civil war in this place, and Zebra was released as a war machine to eradicate all enemies, ensuring peace for the residents. At that moment, a giant creature emerged from beneath the sand, a level 23 8-tailed scorpion beetle. A single drop of its venomous tail could kill any living creature. The beast swiftly attacked a girl in the village, but Zebra's punch cut it into 3 pieces, saving the day. In reality, Zebra's personality wasn't bad at all. Despite his gluttony and a bit of a hot temper, he always helped those weaker than him, which was why the villagers valued him. After spending some time with the villagers, they generously gave the 3 of them 2 specially equipped camels to ease their travel in the desert. These camels could store a significant amount of water in their humps, allowing the group to access water whenever needed by simply turning a valve. Their destination required them to cross the hauntingly beautiful desert maze, also known as the graveyard of gourmet hunters. The group continued their journey through the desert, where the daytime temperature could reach up to 60 degrees. Without the camels, it would have been extremely challenging to traverse. While Zebra was gnawing on a chicken leg, he suddenly stopped, sensing something approaching. It turned out to be desert sand sharks. With just a shout from Zebra, they quickly retreated, burrowing into the sand to hide. Toriko revealed that Zebra could release ultrasonic waves that humans couldn't hear. He always knew how to find sounds that would terrify his enemies, using them to launch attacks. After a day and night of traveling, the group finally reached the desert maze, where the sand beneath was scorched red by the blazing sun, emitting heat far more intense than a regular desert. Suddenly, something frightened the camels, and amidst the calm, Komatsu went missing. When the group regained their composure, they discovered a massive creature emerging from the sand. Zebra began inhaling air into his stomach and released ultrasonic waves in all directions, quickly pinpointing Komatsu's location. Meanwhile, the desert beast, formidable as it was, couldn't stand up to Toriko's powerful punches. It seems that Komatsu has fallen into a deep cave deep beneath the ground. Meanwhile, Zebra and Toriko have entered the heart of the desert maze. Despite their seemingly simple steps, a single misstep could lead them to fall into endless pits. A gigantic sand whale, sensing the hunger of the 2 heavenly kings, offered itself to be captured. Touched by this gesture, Toriko prepared a sashimi dish from the sand whale, showcasing not only its kindness but also its delicious meat. Zebra's stamina surpassed Toriko's, and he didn't need to adapt to the desert had to adapt to him. After crossing the desert maze, Toriko and Zebra witnessed a colossal pyramid, its size hundreds of times larger than the largest pyramid in Egypt. However, Zebra mentioned that this was just a small part of the gourmet pyramid. Beneath the sand, an even more enormous architectural structure was hidden. Komatsu found himself on a lower level of the pyramid. Upon waking up, he started exploring to find an exit. Unfortunately, he encountered a gigantic creature, but it sensed Zebra's presence and fled without daring to turn back. Zebra then warned Komatsu to remember to cook for him when they meet again, or else he might end up becoming his meal, a contradiction between Zebra's good intentions and his fierce appetite. After ensuring Komatsu's temporary safety, Zebra and Toriko continued to advance into the depths of the gourmet pyramid. Suddenly, a monster blocked their path, unaware that they were facing 2 gourmet hunters. Encountering an unexpected delicious meal, the 2 of them enjoyed a satisfying feast. Shortly after, they entered the maze of the pyramid, where the surroundings changed positions periodically. Toriko noticed that Zebra was showing signs of fatigue. He had used his sound waves excessively. Utilizing this technique required an immense amount of energy, in the order of millions of units. Facing a 3-headed wolf at level 60, Toriko took the initiative to engage, allowing Zebra to recover his strength. However, when Toriko was about to be attacked, Zebra, disregarding the danger, stepped in and took the blow. He quickly focused his strength on his hand, delivering a punch that sent the 3-headed wolf flying into the wall. However, this victory came at the cost of completely depleting Zebra's energy, temporarily rendering him unable to speak. Meanwhile, below the gourmet pyramid, Komatsu discovered a very familiar footprint, belonging to the mysterious creature that had appeared in the vegetable sky garden. Back above, the two heavenly kings had devoured the three-headed wolf, but Zebra's energy was still insufficient for a full recovery, barely reaching 2%. In terms of calorie storage capacity, Zebra's body was supposed to be 1.5 times stronger than Toriko's. However, at this moment, Zebra couldn't open his mouth, unable to speak, and had to resort to signaling with his hands, a somewhat melancholic situation. Thank you for watching Toriko Part 6. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to watch more videos. Stay tuned for Toriko's journey in the Gourmet Pyramid Maze in Part 7. Thanks.